The aspect of this where he's even talking about firing the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and what she did to embarrass him because his policies embarrass all of us. I'm going to show you a couple of folks who actually know what they're talking about.
Dan, you worked at that agency. 1 to 10, 10 being basically worst case scenario. Where do you put this?
This is about a 9.5 trending to a 10. Look, this is like firing the referee because you don't like the final score of a game. If you look at the typical timeline of how this works, the BLS commissioner isn't even presented with the data until the Wednesday before the announcement. By the way, the president claimed that he first saw the jobs data this morning. That's almost certainly a lie. Typically, the president and his senior team are briefed the day before the jobs numbers come out. There's another thing I want to point out, too, is there's two different surveys within the report. There's the establishment survey. That's a survey of businesses. There's also a household survey, which is a survey of households and demographics. So another thing that's a concern here is all the demographic data, not just race data, but immigrant worker data, is now at the mercy of this new BLS commissioner. You know what the president feels about DEI. So all of these things could, in theory, be manipulated by a loyalist that Trump appoints.
Are we paying attention? She can't even control these things. But they shorten it down to one person, just one person that controls everything. So Donald Trump can fire one person, put in someone else who will then have these fake numbers that whatever happens with the people who actually work on it, present. He'll give his minions and maybe people who aren't paying enough attention whatever he wants to give them. I got someone else. He's the former commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and he had even more to say about how this works in case people aren't really paying attention.
The president said that the BLS commissioner rigged these numbers.
Yeah.
What do you think?
There's no way for that to happen. The commissioner doesn't do anything to collect the numbers. The commissioner doesn't see the numbers until Wednesday before they're published. By the time the commissioner sees the numbers, they're all prepared. They're locked into the computer system. The only thing the commissioner does on Wednesday is to kind of do the edits on the text. So there's no hands-on at all for the commissioner. I was commissioner, and I was sometimes locked out of the process of actually, where the people were working in the building. So there's no way for doing that.
Bill Beach, former commissioner of the BLS, said that he was locked out of it in many cases. There's people who work on this. There's a process involved. Donald Trump doesn't understand processes because he doesn't have one except for the ones he invents in his brain, where he then tells people what it is he wants done and he expects it done. No process, no work, no actual reasoning or numbers behind what he says. That's why he said he's going to lower drug prices by 1,500% with a damn letter. Bill Beach ain't done. He's not done.
What I think really upset the president on Friday were the revisions to May and June, big revisions. But that's because, like every time we publish on Friday, there are revisions to the previous 2 months. This is a survey, and a survey has sample returns. People have done surveys. You answer your phone.
It's basically like a poll.
Yeah, it's like a poll.
Okay.
Not everybody in the country is asked the question, are you working? Are you looking for work? Just a handful. And businesses, about 600,000 businesses. Well, they don't all get their returns in on time. I would like them all to come in on time, but BLS keeps the door open for 2 more months to get more information. So what you saw on Friday was the effect of trying to do a better job, getting more information.
The revisions are what have him so upset. Again, I know most people may not have a chance to actually pay attention to all the aspects of how this works, but the revisions came out as well. And for May and June, the numbers that were already disappointing were even worse, disastrously disruptive. That's the way it works. And he explains how those things work. And I guess enough people can't pay attention to the boring guy who's talking with glasses, who's telling you what his job was and how it used to work and how it still works that same way. All we're supposed to pay attention to is Donald Trump fired someone and suddenly everything's going to be rosy and great again. That's just surface level bullshit. That's how fascists work. That's why they were so upset when people called him what he is, an authoritarian. That's why they don't want you to realize what it is that they're doing. If you accept that he's a fascist, you'll look into the things he does and go, damn, that looks pretty fascist. We have to go through 100 videos of people breaking down what it is that's wrong and how things actually work and compare it to the cartoonish, childlike things that they say and expect you to believe. So which one would you believe? Your wallets or the guy who's telling you why your wallets are being depleted right now, versus the guy who says you never made more money in your life while you're wondering where the hell that money is. And what's going to be next is some loser put in place. By the way, also Jerome Powell, he still couldn't run out yet, but there was someone on the board at the Fed that resigned. And they're looking to replace, I believe it was a woman, to replace her with someone who's also a loyalist on that board in hopes that they'll do what Donald Trump wants to do as far as getting rid of Jerome Powell, so then they can place that person in the position to continue doing the same things that he wants this person he's going to place as the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics to do for him as well. A complete, they called it a deep state when they were running. It's a complete reversal of that. It's a deep state of fascist loyalists. That's why they scoured the whole government and said, are you loyal to Donald Trump? And if you're not, get the hell out of here. We need loyalists who are willing to lie and sell their souls for $500 to get a chance to make this guy look better than he ever could be. He's been a failure his entire life. We're finding out, as we're all becoming a failure with him, why.